Hi, I'm Aaron Raw, and you're watching Atheist Edge.
Hey, welcome back to Atheist Edge. I'm Jim. Today in the studio, I've got Molly McAlister. We met a couple months ago, I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago. There's an atheist Christian meetup that we do on Saturday evenings here in North Texas. It's about half Christians and half atheists, and it's a really good time. I've made quite a few friends, and in the course of it, I got to talking with Molly about her story. And I don't know it all right now, but it really intrigued me, and I said, you got to come on the show and tell this. So, first off, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take it away. What's your story?
Well,
you are a Christian.
I am.
And you came to it in a kind of a unique, maybe not a unique way, but a special way.
Yeah.
Right?
So
what was your life prior to this? What was going on in your life?
Well, I was raised in the church. Mm-hmm. So raised, and we were there every Sunday. Mm-hmm. We weren't, we didn't, recite scripture and all this, we weren't like strict, but we were there every Sunday. I went to Sunday school, never felt like I really belonged, never felt like it was really, there was just a disconnect there somewhere. And so I was homeschooled as well, not because of religious reasons, just because my mom hated the public school system.
Your parents were Christians?
Yes. Uh-huh. And my dad was active in the church. My mom is, you've met my mom. She's a very strange Christian. She is more, I guess, the spiritual side.
Linda.
Yes.
Oh, Linda. That's Linda. The Linda. Okay.
Yes.
I get the names confused. All right.
But she kind of raised me to not have such a closed mind on a lot of things, because there's a lot of stuff that's very closed-minded in religion. And so when I was like 12, I think, I just quit going to church. And just said, well, I'm not going to do this anymore because I didn't want to get up early on Sundays. It was boring, whatever. But I always felt that connection. I always felt like I needed that in my life. And I saw my friends who were very religious, they were involved in church, and they talked of Jesus, and they just had it together, and I wanted that. There was something about it that I wanted. However, I didn't feel like I could get it. There was something wrong with me. There was something I could not connect with. I was not good enough. I felt like I was just, I had to be a certain way before Jesus would accept me.
You had to get your things in order before you could present yourself to him. Yeah.
Right. So when I was like 17, I was always a good kid. I was always a great kid. Never did anything wrong. I trained horses. I worked. I just was always busy. I had my first drink when I was 17, and first drunk when I was 17. Remember every detail about it. Apparently, that's not a normal thing to remember your first drunk. But I remember every single detail. Yeah, I remember everything that happened. And I remember the feeling of it. I remember all of it. And then the next day I swore I'd never do it again. And then about an hour later I thought, man, I can't wait till the next time I can do that again. And so...
That's not uncommon. That's common.
Yeah, pretty much it wears off.
I promise I'll never drink again. When are we going out drinking next weekend? Yeah.
So when I was 19, I moved out of my parents' house and moved into a barn. And I managed a barn. Mm-hmm. So... but I met my now husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, at a bar. And things just kind of like skyrocketed with the drinking. I, never felt like I fit in anywhere. I never felt like I was part of. And drinking gave me that connection. Drinking made me somebody I was not. I was always shy growing up. I was quiet, I was shy, everybody talked for me. I was just awkward, everything. Once I drank, all of that went away. And I still had that desire for God in my life. I still had that something that was telling me I need this in my life. But again, I was not good. And the more I drank, the worse things got, the worse I did. And now I'm even farther from God. Now God really doesn't want a girl that's, bringing home guys from the bar and getting drunk every night. And then, drugs got involved. And so it was just crazy, but I was so lost. You know, I felt like there was something I needed. I needed that. And I tried counseling. You know, I tried all of the stuff. I was on medication for depression. I tried counseling for depression. I tried everything. And eventually, you know, kind of fast forwarding a few years, I ended up in jail. Well, I had 3 suicide attempts. And they were, the first time they felt sorry for me. The second time they didn't feel that sorry for me. The third time I was taken to JPS hospital in handcuffs covered in pepper spray. Because I ran from police. So I get into JPS and they tell me, well, this is your 3rd time in here for a suicide attempt. You are no longer able to get yourself out of here. The state is we're gonna turn you over to the state, and because you're mentally unstable. So I was like, well, that sucks. So
Every suicide attempt is taken seriously, though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the 3rd one, that's when they take over.
Apparently, yeah.
Okay.
And I was in there for 4 days or something like that while I was on watch.
Mm-hmm.
And so they let me out. I immediately went right back to drinking. Went right back to everything that I had known. And I knew that it wasn't okay. But the problem is every time I would pick up that drink, then all of my intentions, all of my everything went out the window. You know, I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen when I picked up that drink. I may have won. I may close down the bar. And it took like 6 more months before I actually hit my bottom. And that was, well, I got DWI. And then less than a month later, it was my birthday. And of course we had shots, and I got free shots, and we had fun, and fun quickly ended somewhere. And so I was taken back to jail for breaking into my boyfriend's apartment where I lived, and I had a key. Still have no idea why I broke into the apartment, but I climbed through a window. And I was sitting in jail for 5 days, and the whole time I was saying, God, just get me out of this. If you get me out of this, promise I won't ever do it again. The same foxhole prayers I always prayed.
Mm-hmm.
Get me out of this, I won't do it again.
Foxhole prayer, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I never heard it called that.
Yeah. So, on like the 4th day I was there, I finally just went, I know exactly why I'm here. It's because of me. You know, it's because I can't control my drinking. I can't do anything, you know. And I completely humbled myself to God and said, whatever your plans are for me, I'm willing to do it. If that means staying in jail, I'm okay with it. If that means getting out, then great. What do I need to do? Please help me. And it was that absolute, like, in my heart, I wanted to change. And I don't know how long it had been, because in jail they don't exactly give you, you know, like watches and phones and things like that. And I was in solitary. I have no idea why. But apparently I was crazy. His special wristband. We still don't know why. But a lot
of unanswered things still.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. A lot of loose ends still. They unexplained. Well, that whole time in your life was a haze anyway to begin with.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So, but I get out of jail, and I instantly knew of some people to contact, because they had told me throughout my drinking, if you ever want to stop drinking, contact me. You know, I can help you. I've stopped too. And so I knew exactly who to contact. Well, it turns out that my boyfriend at the time, or fiance, whatever he was, had gone to jail the day after I did. So we were in jail at the same time. I thought that was God telling me we should be together. And as I see 9.5 years later, I see that was probably God going, oh, please don't. Here's a really big red flag. But to me, how I saw it was, but I also see now that I was so codependent that probably there was absolutely no other way that when I got out, if he was still drinking, I probably would have gone right back. So he got sober, I got sober, and kind of went on that path. And I had, you know, a relationship with God, but that was about it. God was kind of like this being, this something else. And I really, there were a lot of those questions. Who is God? What is God? What's all this? And it wasn't until, and the Bible always kind of was weird to me. And my friend, one of my best friends, is a really strong Christian, and she kind of creeped me out, especially like if I went to church with her and she did praise hands. I was like, what's
Oh,
up with
yeah.
price hands? That's a little
Yeah,
weird.
it still creeps me out.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
Right?
So, you know, I just thought it was just really strange. Well, my husband and I separated after, it was like less than a year after I had my son. We separated, and working from home, being a single mom, I was just losing my mind. So one night I decided that I would go to Chick-fil-A, and while I was on my way there, I was like, God, just help me. I am struggling so much because I'm not alone. I know that there's something better. I know that there's something better, but on my own, I'm not doing so well. So maybe put some people in my life. And, you know, it'd be really awesome if I met a woman there that was like, hey, come to my small group. And it was just kind of a weird, random prayer that, you know, my prayers aren't like, you know, verbose and big. You know, it's like I talk to God like, hey, dude, you know, and so I get to Chick-fil-A, and that's exactly what happened is I meet Dana, and she...
Dana's your pastor's wife.
Yes.
Josh, yeah.
And she was doing, looked like a birthday party. And I was like, oh, this would be really cool to do a birthday party here. And afterwards, she asked me if we had made a cupcake. I was like, no, we're not part of it. She said it was family night that night. I had no idea it was family night. And so there were tons of kids there, tons of people there, tons of opportunities to meet new people and for my son to play. And she came up to me again afterwards. She briefly asked me what I was doing there because I'm alone with a little, 2-year-old at the time. And, I said, I'm just kind of struggling right now. I just needed to get out of the house. And for some reason, I felt like I should talk to her and tell her the truth of why I was there instead of going, I'm fine. We were just hanging out. And told her, I'm having a hard time. And so she comes back up to me and she's like, do you have a church? Is that even something you want to be part of? She didn't push it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, come to my church. Hey, come to my church. Be a Christian. Love Jesus. And I was like, I would actually like to. And she goes, well, I think she left and she came back and she said, well, we actually, on Thursday, this was a Tuesday, she said, on Thursday we have a small group that's meeting up. Would you like to come? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Which was very weird because, like I said before, I've always been very introverted, very shy, very quiet, don't meet people very well, don't connect with people very well. Went to this meeting of these women, and I was the first one to talk. I was the first one to speak up and just kind of, like, here's why I'm here and here's what I see. So after that, my relationship with God completely changed. And that's when I really, honestly started to seek Christ. And started to find out more of who he was and what it was. Because all I had ever heard really before was like the stuff from the Old Testament, the bad stuff you hear, the stuff, the Christians on TV that I'm like, I don't want to be one of those people. The hatred, I don't like what you do, so I hate you, and I'm going to make sure you know that I think you're wrong. I didn't want to be part of that. I didn't want to be part of a church that was like that.
Yeah, I see that.
And so the Elsoms, when they invited me in, and then I went to church on that Sunday, was actually a guy that was a guest speaker. And he started talking about how he, he had an aunt that had a girlfriend, and they didn't want to go to church because they were lesbians. So we're not really...
I had a girlfriend, okay.
Yeah, so it's like, well, we're not welcome into a church, so we don't want to go to a church. And he said, well, how about I bring the church to you? And so after a while, he had 15 lesbians that decided to come and be part of this church that was held at somebody's house. And he was like, there's so many people that won't go into a church because they don't feel welcome, which was how I felt. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I had done so much wrong. I had done so many bad things in my life. And so it was, well, we'll bring the church to you. And that is what Jesus talks about, is, it's speaking to those people that are the low people, the people that aren't perfect, the people that aren't great. And churches tend to go, here we build this big fancy building, now you all have to come in here, dress nice, be nice, act a certain way, be a certain way. But I bet you if a homeless person walked in, they wouldn't know what to do. And they would be, You stink. You smell.
I've been to your all's church.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt anything. I didn't feel anything but welcome. I felt welcome, and it could be argued that my condition right now is I've denied the Holy Spirit my entire life. I've vehemently been skeptical of it. Anytime a faith claim or a supernatural claim has been proposed to me, I've called it unsatisfactory. That, in a religious setting, is way worse than DUIs and rock bottom and alcohol, because that can be fixed. God's still going to God's not in the Bible. There's only one unpardonable sin, and I'm doing it right now. So I'm not to discredit you, but when I walk in there, I still feel, and I'm worse off than a lesbian right now. According, I don't know if Josh's church speaks. They probably love the sinner and hate the sin, right?
Yeah.
Is that basically it?
Yeah. Love is the top.
Lesbians, of course, I'm sure are welcome in there, and non-believers are welcome because I just walked in.
Yep.
But there still is if a homosexual came into your church, of course they're a human being and you'd love them all the same, and God loves you the same.
Yep.
But would you try to talk them out of it?
No.
You wouldn't?
No.
Would you
Not
tell him
likely.
it's sinful? What if he came? What if he or she came and asked you, "Hey, is what I'm doing sinful, in your estimation?"
My answer to that has always been, according to the Bible, it says this, this, and this is a sin. However, it also, my kind of counter thing is that it also states that gluttony is a sin. And so Thanksgiving could really be a very sinful holiday. So sin
But
is sin.
two wrongs don't make a right.
Right. So,
I see what you're saying.
It's
Sorry,
like,
I'm sorry to get you off on a tangent.
No, but
you were still in Chick-fil-A. Oh, you want to finish?
No, that was kind of it.
Okay, yeah.
And that's really how and then after that, I had a relationship with God from getting sober, and had been sober, I guess, 8 years. And then it was my relationship with Christ is what has really changed. And it's because of how Josh, my pastor, brings to life the Bible and references back and forth and goes, it says this, but we have to put it into the correct context. Why did he say this? Yeah. And why is this? And so it's really opened my eyes, and I still have a problem with the Old Testament. I still look at it and go,
I have a problem with all of it, but yeah, I see. I know. I'm right there with you, man.
But the other day, I was thinking about it, and the Bible's divinely inspired. It's apparently written and blah, blah, blah. However, it was not written by Jesus. It was not written by God. Man wrote
Who
that.
could have misinterpreted, right? And
exactly.
Yeah, I see. I've heard that.
We get our, it's like I was saying, how I thought that my husband and I should be together because we both ended up in jail at the same time. Now I see it as
the exact opposite.
Yeah.
That it was a warning flag.
Right.
But you misinterpreted what you thought was a sign.
But however,
and from my point of view, I think neither of them are signs. It's more than a coincidence, because you and your fiance at the time were engaged in activities that would land a higher percentage chance of you landing in jail anyway. So it's better than random chance that you both ended up, but it was a coincidence that you went to jail basically at the same time. But that's all I would see in it.
To me, either way, I look at it as I maybe had misinterpreted what God was telling me. However, the outcome of it was still good. It still ended up good.
If the outcome had not been good, would you have just forgotten about it, or just not attributed it? See what I'm saying? Like Brady and I, when we were talking about the cold reading, how these mediums, they say, I'm talking to your loved ones, they start asking questions. And Sylvia Brown, she made this woman cry, but she only got, when you actually look at it, she only got 7 out of 30 questions right. But it was enough to make her cry. And she forgot about the, what's 30 minus 7? 13?
Right.
No, 27? Anyway, she got way more, but this lady forgot the misses. She forgot all the misses. She only remembered those 7 hits, and it was enough to make her cry. Do you think you're remembering hits and forgetting misses?
No, because I've told my story, my drinking story, many times. And throughout all of those times that, it would be years of me going, I drank for a very short amount of time compared to a lot of people I know.
And drugs too?
very little drug use. It was mainly drinking. I really did drugs just so I could be skinny. But
And now you're a workout freak.
right.
Yeah.
So you know you kind
We'll
of
talk about that at the end. I want to talk about that because
So-
I want you to give me some advice to get my fat ass back in
Okay.
shape. I was a Marine for 20 years. This does not feel natural for me.
Right.
So I got to find a way to get back on the horse. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. But so I can see all those little things that really are not good, but you know, like being covered in pepper spray. You know, I laugh about that story. I was running from the police is what was happening, and they finally had to tackle me, and it was really awful. But I can look at it now and go, if that hadn't have happened, then I wouldn't have, you know, I wouldn't be here. And then what also tends to happen with me is that all of those mistakes that I've made in life that were like the big ones, the ones that I just royally screwed up on, somebody is put into my life and they'll go, I'm not good enough. You know, God doesn't love me because I did this. I'm like, oh, sweet pea, I did the same thing like 5 times. You know, and so I can relate, and all of those stories help me to reach somebody else that is going, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I work with, you know, there's a girl that I do Bible study with, and she was a heroin addict and a prostitute. And, you know, we have so much in common that we talk about, even though I never went, you know, I was never either one of those. But we can connect in our stories and connect in our hardships and those things that we're shameful of and we don't like, but they still work for good.
Every atheist watching this right now is yelling at the screen for me to ask you a question.
Okay.
I can feel it already.
Okay.
If it was Dana and Josh at the Chick-fil-A, let's say no one showed up, could you have pulled yourself up and be where you are now without God, without Christianity? Is there any conceivable way in your mind you could have pulled yourself out of this mess without religion?
Judging from my life.
Judging from maybe your friends that may have done it, or do you think it's just possible, hypothetically?
Well, I had tried.
Would it have been possible? And if it's possible, would it have been much harder or
Way harder.
But it
Way
would be
harder.
possible.
I tried white knuckling things a lot. I tried, you know, willpower.
Or secular alcohol program.
Yeah. I tried, you know, I've done 12-step programs.
That's a
and
religious one. But there are
Yeah.
secular ones that don't rely on giving yourself over to a higher power. I don't know if their success rate is any better,
Right.
but
Well,
it's probably worse.
a 12-step
But
program, their success rate is actually 100% if you work the program. However,
They have ways of tweaking those numbers.
it's
an unholy thing. An unholy thing. An unholy thing. An unholy thing.